Today I'm going to show you how to develop a Chinese maple. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So I'm working on a Chinese maple today. I'm going to show you a cool method to develop the tree. This method takes quite a long time to develop your trees, but it's a really awesome way to develop them, and you're going to have a much better tree at the end of it. So funny thing is, my mom still comes to my garden all the time and she's like, these things are completely dead. And I have to explain to her that, they're dormant at the moment. They're not dead, and this thing is still very much alive, but this is also a good time to work on these species. Basically, you can see that this is a much younger trident maple, and I'm allowing this to grow quite long. So this is going to allow it to thicken up nicely, and I don't want to cut it yet. I want it to thicken up, and if you wanted this to get even thicker, I would suggest putting it in the ground or a much bigger container. But we really need this to grow to allow it to get thicker. So you can see here is a really cool example. This has gotten much thicker. I want this to be a much smaller tree, so I'm kind of happy with the thickness of the trunk. It obviously will thicken up over time and develop, but you can see how it's really nice when building ramification. I've snipped it down now, and now it's split into two whole new branches or trunks. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to basically trim it right back again, and then those two new little buds will split into another two. So we basically want the branch to grow from 1 into 2 into 4 into 8 into 16 and so on. And that's kind of how we're going to build a really nice deciduous tree. Cool, so here's a closer look at it. You can see I snipped it over there, and it's split into two new branches. So what I want to do is I'm going to snip back to these small little buds. I may even go further down to these over here, and then probably snip about there. And then that's going to cause these to split into another two. And basically we're going to repeat the process, and then we're going to have an awesome looking tree. Cool, so these are those dormant buds that I want to snip back to. So you can see there's two little buds. We always want to snip back to those buds. So these are pretty forgiving, and there's a lot of dormant buds that sit in the tree that sometimes you can't see and they might bounce back. But it's always rather safe that we cut back to those buds, and then if some more buds shoot out, that's just a bonus. So I'm going to come in, I allow myself to leave a little bit of dye back, just so that when these do grow out, it's just a bit of a safety precaution so that we don't kill off the new buds. So I'm going to come in there, and I'm just going to snip it off just like this. Boom. Cool. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to just add some cut paste to the top of this, just so the branch doesn't dry out as quickly and we don't get any funguses or anything weird like that. I'm just going to add a little bit of that cut paste to the top of it, just to be extra safe. Cool, so something to keep in mind. Remember, we also don't want to start building ramification quite high up on the tree, because then we're still going to develop more branches from there on. So I potentially probably could have come further down this branch and cut it a little bit further down. So I'm going to kind of show you that on this branch here, but it's something to kind of keep in mind. So you can see the two little dormant buds. I'm coming in and I'm just going to snip that down like that. So you can see, bringing it further down, it's just going to be a much nicer ramified tree at the end of it. Because remember, we still need to account for the other branches that are going to start forming over time. So I'm just going to put a bit of cut paste on this. But in a weird way, this is kind of nice because one is taller than the other, so maybe it looks a little bit more natural. And this tree's still got a long way to go. So this is some nice cut paste that I use. I mean, I don't know if you guys could tell me what that says. I have no clue, but it works really well. And yeah, if you can recognize this bottle or this tube, you should get some. It's really, really awesome. Cool, so you can see I've trimmed it right back down. I mean, remember, these branches were really long, so I've allowed these to grow really long so that these branches can thicken up. So I'm going to basically do the same with these smaller branches here, because remember, at the bottom of your tree, you always want the most dominant, thickest branches. So I'm not going to trim these today. I'm going to allow them to grow out next season, and kind of just a general kind of rough idea, you're going to see how these are going to split out like that into two. And then I'm going to basically repeat the process. And then those little buds over there are going to split into two, and we're going to create that awesome ramification. Cool. So like I say, this takes a while to develop a tree, but we're in this for the long run. We really, really need to think about the future of our tree. And if you rush this hobby, you know, you're just not going to get the best results from it. So this is why you should always have more than one tree and have awesome, cool little projects along the way, so you can kind of fill up your time and, you know, create such cool little bonsais out of these awesome, awesome trees. So I thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video. Have a beautiful day.